As a supermodel, actress, and health expert, I've traveled the world, and I have learned that no two people share the same story. My name's Carol Alt, and in my living room, you'll hear the stories that have shaped some of the most successful people in their industries. Welcome to Carol Alt's Living Room. She's one of the world's most famous fashion designers. You know her name, but do you know her story? Please welcome Nicole Miller to Carol Alt's Living Room. Hi, I'm Carol Alt, and welcome to Carol Alt's Living Room, where we're going to meet old and new friends. Today, I have an old friend of mine, not so old, but old in length of time that I've known her, Nicole Miller. Nicole, it's so great to have you. And this is our first show. I have to tell you, so I'm a little nervous. It was like flub, flub, flub. But, you know, we were sitting here talking, and the first thing I was going to ask you, because I'm born December 1st, is that, oh, you're a New Year's Eve baby. And you said, no, I'm not. So you threw me off right away.
Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way, right off the bat.
You're actually Pisces.
Yes, Pisces.
And you're born in March.
In March, yes, exactly.
What is a Pisces?
I think a Pisces is a very creative person. Creative, sensitive, and feisty. And I'm also on the borderline of Aries, so I've got a little bit of that going for me too.
Well, the great thing about Aries is they're very honest and they get along with Sagittarius, of which I am a Sagittarius, so that's great. So you were born in Texas, no Texas accent.
Oh no, we lived there. My dad worked for General Electric. He was an engineer, and so we lived in Texas for a while, and then we moved to San Francisco. And so we've lived a lot of places. But anyway, in my family, I was the only Texan, so I was very proud of the fact.
So you were the firstborn child? Is that why you were the only Texan?
No, I was the second-born child, but I was the only child born in Texas, and I took ownership of that. It was like I was the Texan in the family, and I was very proud of it.
But you grew up in Massachusetts and went to school in Rhode Island.
Right,
What did you study in Rhode Island?
I went to Rhode Island School of Design, and I studied fashion design there, and I also went to an haute couture school in Paris for a year.
But that, now here's the crazy thing about you, is your father worked for GE, but your mother was French.
Right. My mother was from Paris, and she absolutely wanted me to go to school in Paris for a year. So I actually did. I took a year off of RISD, and I went to this haute couture school in Paris. And so I ended up with two degrees in like the 4 years.
What was the difference between the two schools?
Well, RISD was a very avant-garde, you know, liberal, crazy, creative place. And the French school was very old school and disciplined and had a lot of very rigorous training. So the combination I thought was great of the, you know, old school traditional technique and, you know, this creative, you know, do whatever you want, open-minded education I got at RISD.
So you have both sides, basically.
Yeah, the creative and the technical.
So the Pisces and the Aries.
That too, yeah, exactly.
You said that because you went to school in Paris, it taught you how to drape material, and this became very important to you.
Yeah, because very often you could like run across like, I don't know, designer's block, and then you just take the fabric and you drape it around the form and you can come up with like a new creative thing. But, you know, I used to drape all my own patterns when I first started working, and I used to make all, you know, the original patterns myself. So I have that background and that technique. So whenever there's a problem, I can alwaise figure it out. So a lot of times, you know, my assistants, because, well, I would drape them on the muslin, right, onto the dress mannequin. So the thing is, I have that technical background, so I can tell if a sketch is going to work or not work. And a lot of my assistants are, you know, over the years have been like creative geniuses, and I go, but you can't put a seam there; it doesn't work. You know, a lot of times they have like this idea that really can't be made.
And one of the things I love about your dresses is that you make them so easy to get into. You know, they're just easy to get into. They zip all the way down easily, and then the zipper just kind of disappears, and it's not really out there saying, I'm a zipper. It's just the way your dresses fit as well. I can understand that draping was very important to you. But before we get into your actual line and all of that, I want to talk about, so you actually say it wasn't your Parisian mother that influenced you, even though she's the one who wanted you to go to Paris to school. You say it's your father's design mind.
Well, no, I'd say it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I really have to say that, because my mother was always getting French fashion magazines from Paris, and my mother was a complete fashion plate in Paris. I've got incredible pictures of her. So she was always like the very chic, stylish one. But my dad had a very like mathematical engineering mind, and I certainly got that because I totally think in numbers. all my patterns, I think, in numbers. So, as well as the drape. So it's a combination of both. So I really think I'm like the product of both of them.
I'm beginning to see there's two sides to you and everything, because every time we talk about something, there's this side of you
I'm a little
and that side of you.
contradictory, right?
A little country, a little rock and
well,
roll.
that's not quite right, yeah. Well, I always, people always call me like the uptown, downtown girl. So, and I feel like, I have a lot of friends uptown, but I hang out downtown. I live downtown. I work uptown. So.
In fact, we're neighbors downtown, and
I know.
we've been friends for a very long time. And I always tell the story that I was away on the weekend, and they called me when I was a model, and they called me and they said, Women's Wear Daily wants to shoot you at Nicole Miller's. And I'm like, threw everything in a snowstorm, got in the car to come down and shoot for you, because really the name Nicole Miller has been, for me, synonymous with beauty and glamour and sexiness, a classy sexy, which is what I've always loved to dress, classy sexy, for as long as I can remember. But for you, when was that aha moment? You grew up in Texas, you're traveling around the country, your father worked for GE, he was stationed all over the place. But when did you say, I just am a designer, that's what I want to do?
Well, if I'd been as tall as you, I might have wanted to be a model. But when I didn't get past the 5'4" stage, no. But I always just
It doesn't seem like you're 5'4". You're
got my heels on.
Personality is bigger.
I've got my heels on today. But no, but I mean, I was always obsessed by clothing and fashion, and I just always loved that. So I always wanted to do something in fashion. So, and it just seemed very clear because in high school I made my own clothes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I always made my own clothes. So
what did you stitched them? You took pieces of other clothing apart. You did
everything.
It from pattern.
Everything. Vintage.
So this is innate in you.
Vintage clothing remake, or like Butterick patterns remake, or whatever. So I was always doing my own thing.
So your first job out of design school, was it out of Rhode Island or out of your Parisian studies?
Well, no, because I managed to do the Parisian thing before I graduated. So
okay.
So when I got out of RISD, I came to New York. And I'd had an internship for this designer named Clovis Ruffin.
Right. What kind of clothes did they make?
Well, he did this really cool, remember like Kiana and Niesta and all those crazy nylon things? He did all these crazy nylon dresses that were very often stripes, and they were all made on a Mara machine. And
all made on a what?
Mara machine. Like they didn't even have like regular stitching. They were all made on like a knit machine, and you could literally make these dresses in 5 minutes. And we would all after work, we would sit down and make ourselves a dress to go out in that night. And we could literally make it
But did this offend your sense of aesthetic design and
No,
style?
because that was the style, and they were all cute. The dresses were adorable. And he was really, really the biggest thing in New York at the time. He was very popular, the cover of Women's Wear Daily every day. He was huge.
Wow.
And the dresses were cool. I mean, it wasn't like wasn't chain store dresses at all. They were, Saks Fifth Avenue and Lord & Taylor, and they were all in the good stores. But that was the mentality. Everybody was into these very simple knit dresses.
Oh.
It was very big on wrap dresses.
Oh, so there was other people who took that design later on.
I think so.
See, nothing is new under the sun, right?
Well,
everything old is new again?
Well, I think wrap dresses have probably been in history a long time. That was a really fun job.
So why did you leave that job?
Well, I think he started moving his manufacturing to Hong Kong. So he was thinning out his design staff and moving everything to China.
So where did you go from there?
So then I got a raincoat job. And I was always, oddly enough, I was obsessed with raincoats.
I like raincoats too.
Oh my God, I loved raincoats. So that was a really fun job.
And then when did you go after raincoats?
And
so wait, who was the designer of the raincoats?
It was a company called Rain Cheetahs, and you can still find their stuff in thrift shops. And they used to make all these raincoats that were cheetah print. And
do you have one still in your closet somewhere?
No, I don't. But
are you sad because of that?
But also, that company was sort of also well known for kind of Bonnie Cash and derivative things. They made all these coats with turn locks. Remember that little turn lock
thing? Yeah, that
thing?
turn thing, yeah.
Yeah, so they were kind of well known for that too. So yeah, I left Clovis Ruffin. I went to work for Rain Cheetahs. And then after I left Rain Cheetahs, I saw
By the way, I thought you were saying rain cheaters, like you cheat the rain because you have a raincoat.
Cheetah.
But you mean like cheetah, like the
Like
cat.
the cheetah, yeah.
Okay.
And they did cheetah print coats.
Right.
So then after that, I saw an ad in Women's Wear Daily for, it was funny, I ran into my girlfriend from RISD, and she was like, oh, I just got this job, and I'm going to Europe, and I'm traveling, and I'm like, shoot, I want to do that.
Were you jealous?
I was so jealous. And then I find an ad in Women's Wear Daily, and it says, designer willing to travel to Europe or something. I'm like, oh, that's for me. So I applied for a job and I got it. It was at this company called PJ Walsh.
All right, I want to
Do you
talk
remember
about
PJ Walsh?
I want to talk about PJ Walsh because PJ Walsh was owned by Bud, right?
Right.
So this is an interesting story because Paris really played a big part in your life. Tell us a little bit about PJ Walsh when you got there.
Well, PJ Walsh was named after this girl, PJ Walsh.
Right.
And she had left. She'd moved to Paris to be with her boyfriend.
She
You know that
fell
story?
in love, moved to Paris, and left the
her
spot
company.
open.
Left her company that was named after her. Yeah.
All right, but your partner, Bud
Yeah.
Conheim, was the owner. So Bud is a very interesting person.
Well, he was the president.
Right, but he was a four-generation fashionista from
Right.
7th Avenue.
Right.
His parents were fashionistas.
Right.
They actually went bankrupt after 4 generations. And then he and his mother started again another line. And then he started a line with PJ Walsh when his mother decided to stop doing fashion. So this was literally a fashion family that you found your way into.
Right, more or less, yeah.
And then PJ falls in love,
Leaves for Paris.
leaves to Paris, lucky you,
Lucky me.
and leaves the spot open.
Right.
So originally Bud had said that he had interviewed 107 people for that spot. Did you know that?
Well, he always exaggerates. It might have been 102.
Maybe. 102, 107. And he narrowed it down to the last 6. What do you think you did to clinch that job? Do you have any idea?
I guess I answered the questions right. But it was funny because the day I showed up for my interview, they were doing a fitting. So I got to comment on the fitting. So
Oh,
I think I had an interview that was a little more involved than maybe other people's interviews.
right.
Because the fit model had come in and then they were fitting the dress on her and I was like, pinning and correcting and I did all that. So I think that went to my advantage.
So you were sitting in this interview. Did you know that he was interviewing all these people, or you had no idea?
Yeah,
You didn't
I
care?
was sure. Yeah, for sure.
All right. You then get hired with Bud, and it becomes the Nicole Miller line in the place of PJ Walsh.
Well, it didn't really. What happened was, well, it was PJ Walsh for a while, and then after a few years.
Wait, you were designing under the PJ Walsh name.
Right.
So even though PJ Walsh left,
It was just PJ Walsh.
it was PJ Walsh.
So after a few years, they decided to make it Nicole Miller for PJ Walsh,
Oh,
since she was gone. So
Right.
then there was like a little tiny Nicole Miller for PJ Walsh on the label. And
how
then,
exciting was that for you to see your
and
name
then,
on a label?
and then what happened is we were part of a parent company,
Okay.
and the parent company was having some issues, so we decided to leave.
You and Bud?
Bud and I left.
Okay.
And so we left and got our own financing and started our own business separately,
So you and Bud have been together some
like 30 years.
30 years. That's a really long, that's like a marriage.
I go, nobody else could put up with him.
All right. Well, I met Bud at some of your
I
events.
tell him that
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, okay. I promise I won't tell him that.
I've told him myself.
It's different if you tell them. So you opened your first store on Madison Avenue,
Yes, in 1987,
1987.
I think, yeah.
How do you feel when you see these today?
It's funny, I still love them, and I wish men weren't so conservative now and would still wear them. So it makes me really sad because it was really a fun time. And they all came from having the Madison Avenue store, because what happened, we were opening the Madison Avenue store in '87. We've been in business 5 years, and I'm making accessories. I was making scarves for the store, and I took some of my old prints and I had them reprinted to make scarves. And Bud says, make me a few ties. So I made him some ties in some of these prints.
Right.
And we put them in the Madison Avenue store, and the women would be shopping for their husbands, and they would buy one for their husbands. Or the husbands would be waiting for the wives while they were shopping, and then they would buy them. And they just snowballed. And then we had done the one with the Met Theater ticket. And back then, nobody was so proprietary about their logos. So we were just borrowing everybody's logos. And people would say, thank you for using our logo. So anyway, the Metropolitan gift shop found the ties, and they bought them for their gift store. And they had been selling them for like a year or so. And then we get a letter of cease and desist for, copying the Met logo. And
Are you kidding? And the Met was selling them.
And we said, you're actually selling them in your store. And they said, oh, okay then.
Okay then. So all the other people, because you did vodka, Smirnoff vodka. You also did, by the way, this is a hockey one. Of course, I love hockey.
I did hockey.
That's a hockey one.
And we did, we did beer. We did all of men's passions. We did all men's sports. We did all men's alcohol, all men's hobbies.
And nobody had an issue. Everybody loved.
Well,
the
you know
fact
what
that you were on
happened? We started like with the beer companies. My assistant just called up all the beer companies and say, hey, can we use your logo on it? And they were like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then we did all like bathroom products and
bathroom products.
Scope. We had Scope and Colgate.
Colgate.
Things like that.
Toothbrushes.
Bathroom cabinet with toothbrushes. And everybody like, oh, thank you, because nobody had ever made,
a big deal out of
a
bathroom
mouthwash looking cool. So anyway, everybody was like really thankful. So they were all very appreciative. And then we asked Absolute Vodka if they wanted a tie. And then Absolute Vodka went nuts with it. And then I did the Absolute Vodka dresses for a while. And then I did just one thing after another. The whole tie thing snowballed. We were getting like requests from all these companies and liquor companies, wine companies. We did all of like, Sonoma and Napa. We did all of the wine country. Oh my God, it was so fun. And the funniest thing when we did something for, I think it was like Nestle. And they had sent us like a bunch of like ice cream sandwiches and stuff. They'd sent up this whole container of ice cream. And I was away. So I come back to my office, I've been away for a week, find a big styrofoam container of like melted ice cream.
Melted ice cream.
Anyway, they sent us another batch.
Oh, well, that was nice of them. After all, you put half these people on the map after that. I mean, Absolute Vodka became a household name because of
On
you.
the candy tie was huge.
Well, who did you put on the candy tie?
Well, the thing is, we put everybody on it, and so then they kind of said,
we prefer our own.
We prefer to be on our own tie.
So did you do that? Then did you give everybody their own tie?
Yeah.
Because you do a lot of sports on your ties, and I was always wondering, I know you love doing sports. So was this life imitating art or art imitating life?
I think it's either. I think it was just more about men's passions.
Doing everything that had to do with
everything
men.
that men loved, and that's what we did. And we did some art ties too, and we had like a lot of like modern art on it, and it was like an 80s tie with everybody's like obsessions. So it was a lot of fun, and we just had so many laughs and fun, and we were invited on so many trips. And
I have to tell you, because I just remember these ties. It was the most amazing thing. When I saw that tie, I just remember thinking, everybody should have one of these. They were so much fun. Is there another product in your line that you have that much fun with? Or was this like the epitome of everything?
We always have fun. I mean, my company is a lot of fun to work for. I mean, we always do like crazy things.
That's good because everybody gets really serious about fashion.
I took my staff surfing in Long Beach one week, and I took the whole crowd. Well, you can look on our Instagram. I took like 9 people surfing in Long Beach.
You surf? What other sports did you like? There was a windsurfing, I believe.
Now, I'm not a big windsurfer. I did kiteboarding.
Kiteboarding.
Yeah, and wakeboarding is probably
What's the difference between kiteboarding and windsurfing?
Well, windsurfing, it's like a sailboat. It's just like a sailboat on a board.
On the water.
Yeah,
okay.
And the kite is the big kite that and then you have your feet.
You little 5'4" you with that big thing, you can handle that.
And then you have, your feet in the stirrups on the kiteboard.
And you lift off the water.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I'm not really good at landing when I lift off the water.
Oh, no, that might be a problem if you take off and can't land.
But it's water, so but yeah, so the kiteboarding I like a lot, but I'd say wakeboarding and water skiing are my better sports, and I snow ski too, and snowboard.
You gotta be careful. You got a label named after you.
I think I like all the foot sports. I don't play tennis so much.
You've done a lot of really nifty things in your career, I have to say. When I was researching you online, you've done so much that even I, who know you a long time, didn't know you did. You designed for the theater. Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, I've done a lot of dance troupes too. But I mean, I did that theater show in Germany. That was crazy. And I did all of the Miss America pageant one year.
So you designed the clothing for the Miss America?
Yeah. I had to outfit like all the girls. Yeah, I had to make a dress for all
Was
of them.
that a headache? Because I mean, you do so many shows a year. I mean, it's.
Oh, and every style had to be different. Like they didn't want two girls in the same dress.
Are you kidding me?
No, so I had to make like 50 dresses, and then I got to be like on the stage, and you know they're on like that disc.
Yeah.
And the disc kind of, when it starts, it kind of jerks.
Oh yeah, and the girls. Yeah.
And all the girls are like, dig your heels in, get your heels in because you're gonna fall over.
Oh my God. I was going to say
That was fun.
I did a Miss America, Miss Universe too, but I didn't do that. I was a judge. I had
Oh,
a
I
way
was a
easier
judge
job.
too once, yeah.
Which year did you judge?
The one where the Russian girl won and then she fired her and then they gave it to Miss Panama.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was
I
in
did the
Puerto
one-
Rico?
Right. I did the one in Moscow. The
Oh.
infamous one in Moscow. Yeah.
See, I would have liked to go to Moscow. That would have been fun.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting, I've got to say, you know, because everything was owned by the oligarchs, and it was like, you know, you were afraid to tell anybody anything. You're just gonna whoop and just went to your job.
Yeah.
It was. But he always has great people though. Every
Yeah.
year they had really great people. I didn't realize you did the clothes for it. What a job that is.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
So, oh yeah, we had great judges too. Like Tyrese Gibson was like one of
Right.
the judges. And there was some football player who was great. And oh, Tatiana Patitz, she was there.
Oh, Tatiana.
Yep.
Okay. Tatiana's not Russian, is she?
No.
I
No,
was
it-
wondering
this is in
because the
Puerto
name
Rico.
Tatiana is Russian.
I don't think so. I think, isn't she Eastern European?
I don't know. I don't know. We had Richard Tyler. We had
Oh, fun.
Nobu. Yeah, we had
Nobu?
Nobu.
Oh, my
Nobu
God.
Matsuhisu came
That
year.
That's so cool.
So you opened up your shop on Madison Avenue. Now, how many shops do you have?
We don't have that many. We got offered, like, somebody bought our lease out in Madison, so we decided to leave.
Okay.
And we'd been there for like 20 years, and it was just, we'd renovated 20 times. It was just time to move on.
Okay.
So I'm more online now than retail.
Really? So
Yeah.
you sell mostly online than you do in brick and mortar? Do you
Well,
have
no,
any
no,
brick and
no.
mortar
I
shops?
sell a ton on, to boutiques and everything. We have a huge boutique business. But yeah, we do still have a few stores. We have, 2 in Pennsylvania. We have San Diego. We have a few stores left.
But do you sell in
And I'm
the
actually
department
going to
stores?
probably reopen again in New York, but I haven't found the right location yet. Yeah.
You said you did your biggest show. Your first show was explosive in 1991.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Oh my God, I was like so lucky because I got all the supermodels. I literally had Christy Turlington, I had Linda Evangelista, I had Naomi Campbell, I had Gail Elliott, I had,
You didn't have Carol Alt. What happened?
I don't know. I think she said she didn't. She said she wouldn't do it. No.
I think I was like probably
know.
shooting movies by then.
Yeah, I think so.
That
But,
was the next generation of models.
Yeah, but there was like remember Gail Elliott and Veronica
do.
Webb, Melanie Landestoy, yeah, all those girls. Elaine Irwin. Yeah, it was a great.
How would you describe the clothing in that show? What was it like?
It was actually kind of mod. It's kind of had a like 60s vibe to it, and I've actually been buying those clothes back up on eBay because I didn't hang on to enough of them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always trying to find like some pieces that I've lost from my archives closet.
Tell us about the materials that you like to use, because you always use very interesting textiles.
Well, I've been a big proponent of these metal fabrics, and I know you've probably worn a ton of them, but we have this incredible fabric that nobody else uses, and it's like metal with Lycra, and some of it is with viscose, and some of it is with cotton, and literally anything we make out of it just like sells out. And I think people kind of gave up on the fabric because they don't know how to handle it. So we have like a lot of tricks to using it that probably, I mean, I've
So basically it's become exclusive to you because not
pretty
many
much
people
because
use it.
I've seen people like they ship it unlined or they don't bind the seams or whatever, and then it just goes nowhere. But we've been very, very successful with that fabric. So I love innovative fabrics and I love new things. So I'm always looking for textile innovations. And then apart from that, we always use a lot of silk or silk and lycra, and I use a lot of viscose.
Do you make any of your textiles? Do you draw and then put it
Yeah,
on your
oh,
textiles as well?
Yeah, no, most of our prints are exclusively ours.
You create them
Yeah.
yourselves? In September 1998, you showed your collection a week earlier than the French collections. So why was that important? Because now, New York shows earlier than France anyway, and then earlier than Milan, and then you go from New York to Milan, Milan to France. But
Yeah.
Why
Well-
was that important at that time?
Well, Helmut Lang changed all this, and I wasn't particularly happy about it. But
Tell us what happened.
Well, Helmut Lang came over and he said, "I'm going to show blah blah blah, spring or something, a month early," and then I think Calvin Klein said, okay, I'm showing it a month early. And then a whole bunch of people started showing a bunch early. And we had discussed at the office, and we said, we might as well go with the group and show early because it's better than showing late at this point if half the people. And I think that season was very split. I think half people kept the later date and half kept the earlier date. But a lot of people.
That's confusing, really.
Yeah, but after that, everybody was showing earlier. That was it. So he changed it.
You're trying to like beat France to
And
the
he
punch.
wasn't even like an American designer. And here he changed the whole calendar for us.
Isn't that amazing how that can happen?
But you know, Americans were so sick of saying like they copied so-and-so.
Oh, right.
And every time, like the American shows would be after the European shows, everybody would say, oh, they're copying blah, blah, blah. So everybody was kind of happy to do that because nobody could say anything anymore.
Right, but beating them to the
We
punch.
did it first.
We did it first. So some of the other really great things you did is you designed a line for Sesame Street.
Oh, yeah, that was a long time ago.
Well, this is your life, Nicole Miller. How did that come about?
You know, I really don't remember. I think they approached us and asked us.
That was in like 2002.
Yeah,
It wasn't
that was
that long ago.
Oh, it was
I mean,
16
long
years
enough
ago.
ago.
No, but I
guess.
really don't always remember who approached us. But I think approached us and asked us if we would do something. So.
Did you enjoy doing that?
Oh, yeah, it's always fun. Like, yeah.
Children's
great.
lines. I mean, you have to be very clever and at the same time safe with children's lines, so it's kind of difficult.
Well, fortunately, I didn't really have to deal with the safety regulations. So it was just the design aspect. So left the problems
Yes,
to other people.
To other people. You just come in there and do your thing. Oh, that's the best way to do it. You designed a Barbie doll.
Oh, that was fun. I did 2 Barbie dolls.
Okay.
So it was, well, I always say, because my mom was French, she would never buy us Barbie dolls. So we always
Is that
had.
true? What did she buy?
You didn't find that in my bio.
No, I didn't find that in your bio. Oh, something I
We
missed.
always had French dolls. She would bring our dolls from Paris, and we always had French dolls.
So they were dressed in beautiful French couture. What were they like?
And, well, they always had, the hairstyles were always very different, and a lot of them had little French berets and stuff like that. So we always had French dolls, and my mother thought Barbies were horrible, and she would not get us Barbies. So I was like, yes, I finally get a Barbie.
And it's in the museums.
Yeah, so we have, one's called City Shopper, and I think one's like New York City Girl or something.
We did a Barbie for Sports Illustrated. We did, and I did Barbie 50 year for Amika. I did a cover with Barbie for 50 years because Amika was 50, Barbie was 50, and I was 50. I'll say that because they can Google me. Anyway, your favorite collection was 1994.
Oh, Spring '94, Girl Gangs. Yes, that was really fun. I love that. It was just a bunch of like tough girls, and they all wore like caps, and they were very street style.
I think that would be very apropos now with the Me Too movement. Just strong women.
And we had Tyra Banks in that. Tyra and Naomi were both in that. It was like a great bunch of girls. I love that show. I still like every time I watch it. I go, oh, this is a cool show.
Do you have a least favorite show that you've done?
Oh yeah, there's a few.
A few?
Well, one I remember.
I can't imagine you having a few.
No, but it's funny when you look in the archives closet. There's like 2 seasons where there's like absolutely no clothes.
You didn't even collect them.
Didn't save anything. No, but one year was the year I was pregnant, and I did the whole show from my house because I wasn't going to the office, and it was just such a disconnect. And like, the models had to come down for castings at my house, and that was the year we decided to use some actresses, and we used actresses, and they came down to my house. It was just a crazy, disorganized show, and like I didn't get to really fit the clothes because my assistants all fit the clothes, and it was just a very awkward season.
So, actuality, your least favorite show had nothing to do with the clothes as you designed them. It had to do with all the ambiance around the show and everything.
Yeah, the clothes weren't very good either.
Do you think that was because you were pregnant?
I don't know. It was just a total disconnect. A total disconnect with, stylists, shoes, everything.
Well,
and we had new people, and we used different show producer, different everything. Everything was like.
I'm just thinking in 30 years to have 1 or 2 shows, that's really amazing.
No, but I laugh when I look back at that show because everybody had these clever ideas. Instead of just having the girls walk out like on the runway, they had them like staggered as 3, and then the whole thing, the logistics of it, everything was just off.
Did you learn anything from that? Don't get pregnant again.
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of things, a lot of different components that went into play
Right.
that just made it not happen.
When something like that happens, when you feel a total disconnect, how do you get yourself back online for the next season? I mean, this is 30 years, but what people don't realize is this isn't just 30 shows. This is sometimes several shows a year that you're doing. You're doing
it's
spring,
two
summer,
major
fall,
ones,
winter,
and then,
right?
Yeah, resort and pre-fall.
resort
But
and
it's
pre-fall.
like two really big shows. Yeah, two really big shows. But I don't know. I mean, that show, when I look back on it, was very conservative. It was very conservative, and I'm not really that conservative. And it was sort of like too like ladylike, and that's also like was my big issue with it. And like I just don't know how I got to that point. When I look back, and I was like, oh, those prints weren't really me, and those dresses weren't really me, and
That's so funny.
yeah,
Like how it's almost like you got bullied into it by an unknown presence.
yeah.
Because the final word is with you. Nobody else has the final say.
Yeah, but you know, when you're so disconnected and you're not there and you're here and the meetings are all disconnected, you sort of lose focus. And I think I totally lost focus of where the show was going.
Does Bud give you any input? Does he help at all in that sense, in the creative sense?
Well, you know, he's very funny because he'll come in and he'll like, oh, you've got this all merchandised wrong. Those should be together, and these should be together, and this is your statement, and this should be with that. And you know, sometimes he's like, wow, that's really good. And sometimes we're like, no. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes he's right on, and sometimes he's not.
Well,
So
the good
it
thing
just-
is you don't always have to listen to
But
him,
you know
right?
what's great? He stirs up the pot.
Yeah.
Because even whatever he said, right or wrong, he stirred up the pot, and that's good. He's always good at doing that.
I understand. How many shows a year do you do?
Two major ones,
Right.
spring and fall,
Then
and
you do
then
resort.
presentations are resort and pre-fall.
But you have a lot of licenses. Do you have to do shows for any of the other
No.
licenses you
No.
have?
No.
Name us some of the licenses you have.
Well, like sunglasses and eyewear, we include their stuff in our show. So we put, you know, their
Okay,
their
so it's
stu-
like having a show. You just add
well,
them in.
we add their, yeah. So we layer in, and the shoes and handbags and everything, all that we layered into
So
our
they're all Nicole Miller.
Yeah. So we layer that all in with
You
us.
also have home decor.
Yep. Well, I can't really put like a rug. Maybe I'll put a rug down the
You
runway.
have us carrying a rug, wrapped in a rug.
Yeah, no, the rugs are
Rugs
great.
hanging in the background, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. We did that once. For pre-fall, we had hung these Persian rugs behind.
You should
the
have
set.
hung Nicole Miller rugs. Come on.
Well, they were vintage. They're all really old. But
Right.
we didn't have the rug licensing at that point. But this,
Right.
we could do that again. You're right.
So name some other. You have luggage as well.
Yeah, we have luggage, you know, jewelry, shoes.
Come on, plug them all. We're here.
No, it's hard because there's like about 30. But we have kids wear. We have little kids' shoes. We have children's wear, men's
That's
wear.
awesome. You have
our
30
men's
licenses.
clothes. Yeah. Mhm.
Do you think you have the most licenses of any designer? Or
I'm
do you
sure
think there are
not.
people more?
I'm sure not.
Like, what else can you license after 30 pieces of stuff? Like, there's homeware and luggage and shoes and accessories.
Yeah, but I
and-
mean, things get divided up because you could be tabletop where you're just doing like placemats or
Okay.
something. So a lot of these things get segmented. So home could be like 10 different licenses.
Yeah. What's your beef
Glasses,
with Ruffles?
silverware. I've just always had a thing about ruffles. And I remember years ago I said, I'll never put a ruffle on a dress. And sure enough, like the next season, like ruffles are big. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll wear one. But I'm just not a ruffly kind of girl. But I don't think you are either.
I'm not a ruffle girl.
Yeah, I'm not a ruffle girl.
But I like buttons. What do you think about buttons?
Love buttons.
You don't really use buttons and everything. And you use a lot of zippers, but no buttons.
Well, I have to say they sort of. Well, you'll see.
Compete.
You'll see some in my '80s revival,
Oh,
but
okay.
you know,
Which we're going to talk about.
buttons come and go. You know,
Yeah.
and some. Remember when they used to make those dresses with buttons down the back?
Yeah, well, they were so hard to get in and out of. I can
Yeah.
understand why people don't use buttons. But they're just so like, because you can, they're so diverse. You can do so many things and have so many different kinds of buttons. It's just a shame they're not as useful as a zipper. So you serve on the board of the CFDA.
Not anymore. I was.
Okay, what is the CFDA
think
and what did you do
The
with them?
CFDA is the Council of Fashion Designers of America, which represents all the designers. And I was on the board for 7 years. It's usually a 7-year term. So.
Oh, after 7 years they get rid of you? Holy cow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, everybody has 7-year terms, pretty much.
That's actually good. That's
Right,
actually,
yeah.
yeah, because it freshens things, stirs the pot. Anyway, M4 had an issue because Kenneth Cole was on there for like 30 years and there was no end
Well,
terms.
I think sometimes if somebody has a position, like if they're treasurer or secretary, their term might be longer. But I didn't have any of those positions, so
What did you do for them?
I was just a member. That's all. I was just a board member.
What does the CFDA actually do? Like, what kind of influence do they have in the fashion industry?
Well, I mean, I think what they've been doing now is great because they do so much more for young designers, and they have like, you know, these like labs and then awards. I mean, they have a lot of different things that they didn't have when I was starting out. So I think they're a lot more helpful to people starting out. But, you know, they also, we would always like, you know, when there's awards, we'd always decide on like who gets the awards. I mean, first of all, everybody that's voted in gets the award automatically, but there's a lot of other awards that are discretionary awards. So we would always discuss like who the fashion icon's going to be and that kind of thing. And we would look at, you know, there's always a lot of nominees or suggestions, and we'd go over who the suggestions are and then decide who's going to get that.
I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. What does the name Diane von Furstenberg mean to you?
It means a wrap dress.
One night we were out together and the name Diane von Furstenberg came up and you literally stiffened up.
I did? Why?
Yeah, I don't know why. That's why I was asking you.
Oh, no. I mean, actually, I get along great with her.
Do you?
Yeah.
She's the head of the CFDA, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's been the head for a long time,
Yeah.
so I guess the
No,
head
I think
stays
she's
there.
done like an amazing job.
Period.
No, she has, because, you know, it's interesting because when she got to be the president, she really like branched the whole thing out, and she just made it kind of explode, you know, and she just made it a bigger thing. And also what I think is great about it, she's got all that European connection, which nobody else had. So she was very connected. She was, you know, she really was the best person for the job because nobody else would have had the connection she has.
I always had the feeling that you kind of liked her a lot and looked up to her. That was the feeling I got from you. You know how there's always somebody, like for me it's Christy Brinkley. It's always like you look at Christy and you go like, how did she do that? Like, you know, that
She's cool.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I got
Really
that.
cool. I saw her the other
she
day.
was like your Christy Brinkley.
She looks like so great.
Am I kind of right though? She's like your Christy Brinkley for you.
Well,
like, you know, there's just like you look at somebody and you go like,
you know,
You
I
just
don't know
really,
because
for
we
some
didn't
reason,
we
like
didn't
them?
really like overlap so much. I mean, you know, I mean, I was like friendly with Norma Kamali and Betsy Johnson and all those girls. Like I admire too. You know, they're all pretty cool designers that have, you know, they're still around.
did
in high
Betsy
school.
Johnson license anything out?
I'm sure.
She's just like one of those really
Yeah, she's so
great,
cool.
wonderful people.
She's so cool.
Another thing we have in common is we both did the Trump Apprentice. How is that for you?
Oh, that was fun. That was fun. And they did a charity fundraiser thing or whatever.
Okay.
And I have a funny story to say about that because I think they did this thing where they auctioned off like an internship with me for, I don't know, like $12,000
Oh, I'll
or
take it.
something like that, right? So,
Oh, I don't care about the money. I meant I would come.
no,
and
but listen, some
take a look.
random woman calls up and she goes, I saw like that you auctioned off, you know, an internship at your
internship.
company, you know, for blah, 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 I'm damn $1,000. And if I paid that, could my stepdaughter come and intern for you? Can you believe this?
So twice.
So we said, okay, if you give the money to our charity, your daughter can come and intern. So she sent the money to the charity, and we got this girl who interned and ended up working for me for years.
Oh, she did. Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice too. So
that
it worked
funny?
all the way around.
Yeah. And the charity got money.
You had a couple personal things that I thought were interesting. You were married by Mayor Giuliani.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Did you know Mayor Giuliani?
Yeah, yeah. We were, I was very good friends with them. Yeah.
You double dated with Andy Warhol. That has to be the coolest thing ever. Come on.
It was, well, we used to do this blind date dinner night. We did this blind date dinner night, and everybody would bring a blind date for somebody else,
Okay.
but not tell them.
Oh, that's cool.
So, like, I would bring a date for, like, say, my girlfriend,
Right.
but I'd not tell him. He would think he was my date.
Okay.
And so she would bring a date for me, like somebody she wasn't interested in, but not tell him.
Right.
And then somebody would bring a date for Andy and not tell him. So we would have like a table of 10 or 12 people, and some people were in on the secret.
On the secret.
And the other, like 6 people knew what the secret was, and the other 6 didn't. The blind dates were confused.
Confused, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really funny. So we had a great time doing that. We did that a few times.
You own a couple Andy Warhols. You love contemporary art.
Yeah. Yeah, not enough, obviously.
Well, what's your $10 million mistake?
The Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Right, right. Who knew back then, though, right? Because all these
He was
people were
so
hanging
mean.
around.
But he was so mean. He was like the meanest person I ever met. And so I was like, I'm not buying his painting. Anyway, ouch.
But you own the Andy Warhols, and you like contemporary. Do you ever use contemporary art does it ever influence you in your designs?
A little bit, but not so much because I don't know. I get tired of everybody saying I'm inspired by art. So I don't know. It just sort of gets to be a little cliche after a while.
Yeah, I suppose so. And then you also appeared on Iron Chef, Rocco's Dinner Party. You do
so
a lot.
fun.
You
Yeah.
do a lot of this stuff. Do you like?
Well,
doing
I love to cook. I love to cook. So
Okay.
and I love.
So that was
and I'm always very opinionated about food.
How did you do on Iron Chef?
Oh, actually, the Iron Chef didn't win that time.
Oh.
And the Iron Chef like rarely loses, so I don't think they were so happy about that. But her food was terrible.
What did you do for America's Next Top Model?
Well, I've been on a bunch of times with Tyra Banks, so I mean, we did like a lot of episodes in our showroom.
Well, so they come to your showroom, they design. What do? Do you fit them?
Oh
you
no,
put
no,
them,
no!
you
They would
dress
do
them?
no. They would do a walk or whatever, and then we would, it was just like a little casting. We
Right.
would do like a casting sort of
Because you were
thing.
also in the documentary Picture Me.
I don't remember half of the things I've done.
Well,
but
this
you
is
know,
your life from
the
Nicole Miller.
Funniest thing was when I've done like Holland's Next Top Model. Holland's Next Top Model is like a little nastier than America's Next Top Model, and so they would say like, just be mean, just. I go, well, I'm not good at being mean, and they go, no, we want these girls to have a realistic idea of how tough it is to be a model, so be as mean as you can.
But you're not a mean person. How did you dig that up?
Oh, anyway, it was kind of fun. I got into the character. I got into the bitch character.
So it was like acting.
Yeah, oh, it was fun.
Now you know why I like acting.
But they were so mean that what they would do is they had this format where they would wait for like, they would, the last person knows they won or whatever.
Right.
And what they did, so they had it so that the girl assumed she had won because they called up like the first runner-up. And so the other girl's like all happy because she thinks she's won. And then they make like the runner-up person be the winner.
What a heartbreak.
But anyway,
Hey, well, she learned what the modeling industry is like, right?
Anyway, so that's that show. I remember well.
What was the hardest garment you ever made? Was there one that just didn't work and it was just you constantly had to work at it?
Well, one thing actually, I mean, there's been a lot like that, but there was one dress we made for The Bachelor. Just they wanted like some like ball gown dress or whatever for
the ending?
winter. Mm-hmm. And they wanted like the hugest ball gown, and we used like 20 yards of fabric, like in the skirt. I mean, it was just went on for days. It took over like the whole back office because it was like so big.
Well, they gave it to the right person because that's a lot of
Thank
draping.
God
and
they didn't send
material.
it back. I was like, please don't send this back to us.
Well, if they sent it back, you could take it apart and make 50 dresses
Right,
out of it.
exactly. Production run.
Exactly. So you described your most recent spring-summer collection as a girl out on safari in the wrong clothes with high heels. So basically the world's worst packer.
Right, exactly.
How did you think of that? That's crazy.
Well, it just,
and I was at that show, by the way, which I loved.
It evolved. It just evolved because, we started with this tropical safari idea. And then, I was designing the shoes, and we were trying to do a spoof on the safari boots, and then, like, we put spike heels on the safari boots. And so, I just wound it into the story as I was, making it. But it started with we said, okay, safari, tropical safari, and we just sort of started with those buzzwords, and then it really ended up being like the girl who'd pack wrong.
I think your sense of humor has carried you through many situations.
Well, I find like the Europeans I feel like Americans always have to be too serious. And like, I always like things a little whimsy, and I feel like a lot of the Europeans are more whimsical than we are.
Really?
In their shows.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I have to say that's for sure. Okay, tell us about your upcoming capsule collection. You've been bursting at the seams. I'm dying to know.
Yeah, but everybody's been begging me to bring back my 80s dresses. And it seems like there's this big like resurgence of like 80s fashion, which was all like easy to wear, loose, not tight, a little bit longer,
right?
Longer styles and everything. So this is something off my new capsule collection, which I'm just about to debut it. It's just about finished. And it's all viscose crepe and no Lycra.
So where are you debuting
So nothing's stretchy and nothing's, tight.
Will this be your fall fashion show?
No, 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 no. We're not going to
Be
put it in the fashion
separate
show.
and completely
No, we're just going to do it's going to be very targeted to certain customers, and the sales department is trying to figure out exactly where they want to bring it first. And so, but anyway, everybody's been like begging for it, so I'm like, great.
Well, and you're wearing it, so it's very attractive, very, very pretty. All right, so you've been in the business for a very long time, and you've had, you've probably done every line about everything under the sun. Where do you get inspiration now? What inspires you?
Well, things always change, and I mean, I used to very often look at like historical references, just old archives things, and not necessarily clothing, just artifacts. And I used to get a lot of inspiration from that, but I always evolve. So, there's always a little bit of history in what I look at, and there's like a little bit of travel, and there's just a little bit of what I don't have in my closet.
Right.
So it's just like a lot of different components. And I feel like whenever I do something, like if I get too much in a rut, I have to break out of it. So, when I was only doing historical artifacts, I was like, okay, I've got to get out of this. Or, like I said, artwork used to be, and it just, to me, got very cliche to be inspired by art, whatever, the sunset.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to take it from nature.
But after a while, like the world gets too small, and you're just trying to break things apart and try new ways of finding inspiration.
Do you think it's important to have always like a couture line as well?
No. I mean, true couture
Yeah.
is really only in Europe, and all that hand stuff, and they have like very minimal shows now. I mean, there's like a handful of people doing couture.
Well, like Ralph Rucci. He does mostly only couture.
Yeah, but it's American couture. It's not like, like the Dior where they're like hand stitching things and everything takes like 10,000 hours to make a dress, and the hand beading and everything. So, I mean, I really feel like the true couture is only in Europe. I know a lot of people, to me, couture is all European. And they have the couture shows, and that's true couture to me. But expensive designer clothes, there's always a place for.
I'm wondering in this economy how much there's a place for it.
Well,
Do you still think there is?
I don't know, I think companies like Gucci are doing just fine, right?
I suppose.
I don't know, I mean, to me, I don't like cheap clothes, but when I see something that's like $10,000, it's like,
Ridiculous.
yeah,
As well.
I go, oh, that's a car, whatever.
Exactly. It's a down payment on an apartment.
Right, exactly. So, I do like to have like good quality leathers and whatever. The only thing I usually buy from other companies, for the most part, is like jackets. Like I don't really buy other people's.
That was one of my questions I was going to ask you. Do you ever wear anybody else's clothing?
Well,
or
I
you
do,
just
but
wear yours?
it's mostly jackets that I've bought from other companies. I just bought a funky coat from a Russian company. I can't even think of her name. But, I like a lot of these, like, brands like Golden Goose and things like that. And I did get something from Off-White.
And finally, your motto has been never say never.
Right.
What are you saying yes to now?
Well, hopefully not ruffles.
No ruffles, no buttons. Vintage
No.
couture, yes.
Yeah, so that's what we're working on now. But and also like leathers have gotten to be a big part of the business.
Okay.
We sell like leather jackets like crazy. Like they just don't stay in stock, and so that's gotten to be a bigger part of the business. So.
So you're saying yes to leathers.
Yes, and also we have a denim collection too.
Denim.
Yeah.
That's kind of a bit retro.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
nice too.
denim is good.
Denim is always good. I remember a girlfriend of mine once said, of course a Russian girlfriend, she said, denim is very democratic. You can wear it if you're rich and you can wear it if you're poor. And I thought about it, that's kind of really right on, I think.
That's true.
That is true.
Yeah, I like that saying.
I like that saying too. I have to tell you something. You are probably one of the most generous designers that I work with. Because I go to a lot of shows.
Oh, remember your fashion emergency?
Yes. Go ahead. You want to tell it?
Okay, so Carol was getting out of the taxi cab and split the dress.
Oh my God. That made me feel very fat.
And it
I had
was-
a fat moment.
It wasn't her fault. It was this like leather that had all this embroidery, and the embroidery had so many holes in it, it just like popped.
Thank you for reminding me of my fat moment.
And
yes.
so whenever I have a fashion show, I bring emergency dresses.
Emergency dresses
in
for
case-
Carol Alt.
Now, in case like something for the runway, like a zipper gets stuck
Yeah,
or
of course,
something,
yeah.
we always bring like a few emergency dresses just in case. So anyway, you got the emergency dress.
Well, I inspired you. That's great. That's great. Anyway, thank you for being with us at Carol's Living Room for our show with Nicole Miller, my good friend and the wonderful designer. And join us next time for Ralph Rucci.